One is education, and the other is health care. And it just happens that those are the two areas in which a third party, in the case of education, it is the government who pays for that. In the case of health care, it's both government and private insurance that pays the main balance of the bills. And so from that, I've observed that if ever we're going to deal with increasing coverage, which is really what this is all about, how do we increase coverage? In order to do that, we're going to have to find a way to lower the cost. And I have agreement among all of my colleagues on the Republican side to just that. In order to have more coverage, we've got to lower the cost. And we have to do it fundamentally. And, you know, this bill that's before us that we may vote on within the next 3 days, it has a lot of things in it. It has 3,000 pages. It has over 100 mandates and boards. It has 3 specific boards of unelected bureaucrats who make decisions about what doctors are going to be paid, what's going to be in your insurance policy, many things about your life that you wouldn't otherwise have control, that you would otherwise have control of. But the one thing it does not do, Mr. Speaker, is it cost. And so I can say to you that fundamentally, if we're going to, at some point in time, address cost in health care, there's one of two ways. Either we look at it on the doctor-patient level, where the doctor and the patient who make the majority of decisions that impact cost, we either give them incentive and we also give them some responsibility, some accountability for cost, in which case if that cost is lowered as a result of accountability for them, then it lowers it for the entire system. And that's been proven to work time after time. For instance, as soon as healthcare insurance began to cover more and more out-of-pocket expenses, we began to see over the years the cost of insurance going up far faster than the inflation rate. In recent years, we've come up with a tool to counteract that, and that is health savings accounts. I instituted that with my small businesses, which are apart from my medical practice, approximately 6 years ago. And it was considered to be sort of revolutionary, and there was a little angst among employees. What is this going to be like? Because our deductible is going to go up, but I committed to them that the incremental increase in what the policy cost would be, I'm going to put it in their tax-free account, which they can use for any health care purchase they like. And despite their reticence at first, they quickly came on, because what they found is that now, instead of being free utilizers of health care and running cost up because it's a use it or lose it proposition, now they have money in the bank, and if they make good, wise, savvy consumer decisions, they can choose generic drugs instead of brand name and save hundreds of dollars. They can shop around cost for certain procedures, certain doctors. And it works very effectively, and in fact I would love to see that in healthcare reform at some point. It's not contained in this bill. We could even do that for Medicare and for Medicaid. Put money in the bank on their behalf. Not out of pocket, mind you, but it is the insurance money or the Medicare money that goes in there to be spent on their behalf, because if they're saving money for themselves, they're saving it for the system at large. What we're going to see here with this bill, if it comes to law, is just the opposite. Nothing to commit the doctor and the patient into controlling cost. In fact, in many ways it lowers the out-of-pocket expenses to a point where the patient behavior, the consumer behavior, is unaffected by cost. And yet the consumer and the doctor are making those choices. Now there will be, of course, layers and layers and layers of bureaucrats who will be controlling from Washington how things are paid, no question about it. And they'll be attempting to control people's lives, what they eat, how they eat, what they weigh, whether they smoke or whatever. But unfortunately, there's no way that Washington, D.C. can micromanage human behavior. Attempts will be made with this bill, there's no question about it, but it will not work. So then there'll have to be Plan B. How will we save money? And what we found in every case, whether it's Tennessee, which attempted this some years ago, Massachusetts, which has attempted this much more recently, Canada, the United Kingdom, most Western European countries, Australia, every one of them, this is what has happened. Plan works nicely at first. People get less out-of-pocket cost. They can go to the doctor they want. Everything works beautifully. But then all of a sudden, the costs begin to explode, and they go far beyond anything that's been predicted or budgeted. And then what happens? Somewhere, costs have to be controlled. And how do they do that? They do that through rationing and long lines. Every single case. Just the other day, TennCare cut its Medicaid visits from unlimited down to 8 visits a year. That's exactly the way it happens every time. Massachusetts, they are way over what their budget is, and as a result of that, they have come to a point now where they're actually reaching out to the federal government to control that. So just to kind of conclude this discussion about cost itself, either you start with lowering cost by using common sense methodologies of the free market with transparency and with turning the patient into a savvy consumer who has all the choices before him or her and can make the best choices for quality and for cost, therefore improving the quality and lowering the cost. Or you can go to a top-down, government-run, government takeover system in which a federal bureaucrat will be walking with you every step of the way. I've been joined here tonight by one of my colleagues, again, as I alluded to a little earlier, Congressman Dr. Phil Gingrey from Georgia, a co-chair of the GOP Doctors Caucus. In fact, it was his leadership that led us here tonight for one of many Dr. Caucus discussions and debates, and he ran a little haul back to his district, but he's now joined us, and so I'm going to yield to the gentleman, the obstetrician of many years from Georgia.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the gentleman, my colleague from Louisiana, Dr. Fleming, for not only yielding a little time to me, but also for being here on the floor to control